Good morning everybody, and welcome to a video that I always knew I'd have to make eventually, but honestly I'm glad it took this long to be a problem. It's actually quite fitting for spooky season as well. So, as of last month or so, I can finally consider myself to be a real artist, because I've had my models stolen. Yay! Okay, so as a rundown, there are a couple of brick building sort of sites and companies that have taken my designs off of rebrickable, where I put them up for you guys to use, either for free or paid, mostly freed, and these companies are selling them for a profit without permission. I'll give you more details in a bit, but for now it is important to note that this was done without my permission. I do not endorse the models that they are selling, and to prove why you shouldn't view this as a way to get your hands on Zelda or models I've designed, I've actually brought a copy of this model that they are selling to show you everything wrong with it and to talk about this in more detail. Unfortunately, as many of you who are deep in the LEGO space know, this kind of thing isn't exactly uncommon. Mock designs, especially those with instructions, have been being ripped off for almost as long as official LEGO sets have been turned into Star Plan and other Lepin products. Now, again, before going any further, I feel like I need to explain my stance on all this, and I need to make a clarification. While I personally have never been a fan of other brick building brands, I also have no interest in picking a fight with the brands that produce their own designs. These are within the realms of fair competition, though if you are curious, I think that having a parts library that you've ripped directly from LEGO's R&D isn't exactly the coolest thing in the world. But nonetheless, the group I'm here to talk about today are the ones that are breaking the law and the ones that are stealing designs and profiting from it. This is most famously done by companies like Lepin, and no matter if you buy these models or not, this is illegal and it is an inferior copy of a designer's hard work that pays no license fee to anyone involved. Brick quality is in also most cases worse than LEGO's, and although this has actually been improving a lot in recent times, and I will give some credit where credit is due on that, my actual qualm goes to the working conditions in these brick factories, which will inevitably be inhumane and unfairly compensated, and that is without looking at any environmental or dropshipping impacts as well. But I'm not a multi-billion-dollar company with a legal team, and unfortunately mock builders actually have very little power to fight back against their designs being stolen. So let's go through my problems with this in numbered order. So number one, I did that. That is mine. I made it, I designed it, I did those instructions, I put all the effort in, and I am the creator. Therefore, its rights for that lie with me and me alone. It is my choice who to give those out to, not this random company. I know in this case it is IP based with The Legend of Zelda, and obviously that does have different concerns, but I've done some careful consultation and pretty confident that as long as I don't put their logos on everything, I fall within fan art and fair use. Number two then, I put these instructions up for free wherever possible. It rattles me to no end that something I made available for the whole community is now forever associated with this old company, and effectively have kept the model. Which brings us to number three. On the page, they have literally used my name as if I am the designer. They're literally marketing this product as if I approve, which I didn't. I don't. I was never consulted, and I would never have said yes for any amount of financial compensation. Which, number four, I don't benefit. And I can argue that this actually even harms the Octane thermoplastic image or brand, as anyone buying these models who receives a substandard product, and they will receive a substandard product, will associate that to me, not to them, but me, the designer, as they've used my name on the pages. Especially when you see that they are false advertising and have altered the design beyond the images that they are showing, and they are too lazy to produce any renders themselves. At this point, I want to mention, of course, that this isn't actually just a me problem. This is an epidemic across the community, and many have just resigned themselves to it as an inevitability, including myself. Some designers have given their designs to these companies, and honestly, that's fine. If you want to do that, go ahead. It is effectively, at that point, they are the designers for that company, and while I could never get on board with a company that is throwing other creators into their machine behind their backs, if you think that is a way to earn a bit of money, I am not going to disrespect anyone for making that choice or that hustle. Brickable is a wonderful site. It is actually against their terms of service to do this and collaborate with these other companies while listing your instructions on rebrickable. And to be honest, they are powerful as well from being pilfered by bad actors, and it's actually only getting worse as the site grows. Not that that's on them. Weirdly, I've also had people tell me that because my instructions listed for free, I should just accept that it was soling, as it doesn't matter because I'm not losing any money that I didn't plan on making. Which is... what? I hope it's not just me that makes zero sense to, because that is a crazy thing that just because I don't intend on making money for it, it is someone else's responsibility, or it is okay for someone else to do it and I can't be upset about that. That is, oh, Rivali said it best.
I mean, it's just asinine.
But yeah, this is something that just happens to creatives, I guess, in any medium. And I'm not exactly in a position to start a war here, and to be honest, I'm more on the acceptance side of things. In fact, I've actually already tried to take down these listings, but shockingly, as you might imagine from these companies, no action's been taken. So I've done the next most reasonable thing, and I've brought a copy of the model. And hey, I see you there. If you have any respect for me or LEGO mock artists in general, you should not be following in my footsteps. I do not endorse this version of my mocks, and I spent my own hard-earned money to acquire this to compare for all of you. And I guess as a sick and twisted memento for myself, I guess. If you want to buy a mock, I always recommend checking rebrickable first, just period. Designers make a living off there, not myself, but other designers do, and it is the best place to support them. As for me, I'm fine. This is just an issue I'm super passionate about and wanted to share with you guys and point out. However, if you want to drop me a little cheeky comment and a subscribe if you like LEGO content or Zelda builds, then do that as well. And I do also have a instructions page where some new models recently went up. But let's get back to it. So the question I think remains is, what did they steal? And so far, and I do mean so far, they will take more, they have acquired the free flower collection builds. This includes the Silent Princess, the Blue Nightshade, the Electric Safina, and the Hyrule Herb, as well as the paid for instructions for the Master Koga bust. So even putting your mock as premium isn't safe anymore. And I can tell you, as a mock that has actually only been purchased once, again, we don't make any money off this, I have to imagine that they are not the owners of that mock. They probably bypassed the payment barrier illegally as well, which is a lot of fun. Anyway, both of these models have shown up on multiple sites. No, I'm not going to tell you where, but I do think it's also funny to point out that the dimensions they've listed for the Koga helmet are just wrong. It's actually laughable. I can't believe that my name is on this and they can't even get the sizes right. It's just appalling. And as you're about to see as well, you don't actually get what you order. We're going to take a look at the flowers now because I can compare them to my official LEGO ones and because I didn't find the Koga listing in time. But two last things before we do. Firstly, this isn't going to change anything about how I personally decide to do instructions for my models, and I don't think it should for anyone else either. Both paid and free will continue to be uploaded to rebrickable. I have, of course, just about finished the Champions art that was actually uploaded earlier in the week, and then I'm going to start on the Rallis Wagonex instructions, as well as Ganon, and of course eventually Hyrule Castle, hopefully by the end of the year. So do watch the community post and the rebrickable page, which link is in the description for updates on any of those. It has, however, though, damaged my motivation to do this. It's already hard enough to make instruction, and as much as I love putting them out for you, it's much harder now knowing that in a few months my creative baby, it sounds stupid but that is how it feels, will be reduced to just some dropship slop, cutting me out from the process and leaving its heart, soul and meaning behind while it becomes associated with some other company with no morals instead of its original creator. And then secondly, I do want to draw attention to the designer of the now infamous Hinox that has been on these sites for a long time. You may have seen it around as well, but this was actually designed by a viewer of the channel, Spinach Bricks. I remember around in the early days of the channel, but unfortunately his channel is now gone, which means we don't have any records of the fact that he was creator of this model, outside of the fact that myself, Highland Bricks, and a couple of others remember the video, remember him interacting with us. And it's really sad because we've tried on several occasions to defend this model, as I know it definitely wasn't his intention to have this sold left, right and centre without credit, and I know he's not benefiting from this either. So I wanted to point out that the original designer of this one and give a little tribute to that, as I think it's a real shame that a talented builder who has now gone has also now been forgotten and taken advantage of in one of the worst ways I think you can be as a LEGO fan. Okay, so let's look at some flowers. You may notice a little bit of a difference, and yes, as soon as I opened the bag, I knew that there was a part substitute as well, mostly affecting the Blue Nightshade, and honestly, this is just such a downgrade. I asked some independent sources for their opinion. The colour balancing is just wrong. This lime green here is disgusting and sounds out super ugly like. They couldn't even recolour the right blue for the flowers either. The fact that they've used two tones isn't cool, it isn't effective, and they didn't advertise it either. And I'm actually really confused that they couldn't recolor this, since they have the mold and they don't advertise this as a problem until you get the instructions, and we know they're making them cheap as chips, so you're going to tell me that the same recolor limits apply to the knockoff companies that it does to the big corporation as well. So that's false advertising. Number 3, I wonder how many mistakes are actually out there in other models and so on. And speaking of that, I mentioned instructions there, and honestly about halfway through I thought I was like, wow, these are great, they're easy to follow, they're building nice and so on. And then I caught myself. That's because these are my instructions. I did that. It's literally a copy of my pages with a slightly reduced resolution. If it feels good, that's because I made it good. And that made me mad because I completely forgot. And then I realised that buying a stolen mock, you are entirely at the mercy of the original designer, which won't be a problem, except for models like that $2,000 castle that they sell. I know that was designed only digitally and has never been built real life, so it has had no structural tests. 0. So I wonder what that is like as an experience for nearly $2,000. You can have substituted parts, are we? We have missing parts in a 47,000 part build? Surely, almost certainly. And how stable is it if no one's actually ever tested it? We know they haven't built them because my dimensions are wrong. We know they haven't built them because the instructions are just mine ripped straight from the model. But by the way, the designer here of this castle as well has given this mock to them, so I don't feel bad about talking about it, given that he had chosen to participate with this company. It's also taken some heavy inspiration from my flowers, actually, too, in the past. I'm jesting, of course. So after complimenting the company on their wonderful job with the instructions I made and they stole, what do you actually get when you buy them? Well, you get a bag and a QR code and the bricks. Shall we roll the roll reaction to just opening up this bag?
Oh wow, so this has just come in the mail. Okay, I was hoping for cooler packaging, but as you can see, that looks like it's my build. Let's unpack this. So this was all that was inside. Immediately what stood out to me, those parts are not supposed to be in that colour, so that's going to be fun. I mean we're going to see what it's like, because they're not going to be on-brand parts. Comes with a cute little thing, and then I'm going to scan the QR code on the back here, because I want to know how my instructions are being processed. Well, firstly, that's just not what they advertised, is it? I mean, look, I think they've even photoshopped over the image, right? Because these are all my original renders. Those don't look natural. They've done that in a program. But I mean, apart from that, I assume, right? If I can just, they've changed them. What? Oh, I don't understand. Oh yeah, look, and then classic. It's literally just my instructions. Very cool. Well, this is an experience. This is disappointing. This is going to be a fever dream. Okay, right. Let me build it up so I can actually give you guys some proper commentary, because I don't feel like I've really shared anything yet.
Now, I do have some positives to lay on, with caveats of course. Since my last time using off-brand bricks, the quality has improved dramatically. I had no clutch power issues with the hard parts, and yeah, while I often couldn't tell the parts were fake, the colours were just ever so slightly different, and the texture and feel is just more sharp, honestly, is the best way to describe it. Everything's just slightly harder to put together, and therefore was less relaxing. I built a real Lego set afterwards, and honestly, my fingers could just tell the difference. I was just less visibly tense too. I'm genuinely not trying to exaggerate. I could just feel it inside it, and it really did make a difference to me. But then again, I built a lot of Lego, so maybe this is a placebo. But I genuinely felt the difference in the construction process. But none of this comes close to the biggest problem that we had, and that is with the flexible materials and the tolerances. I was recently watching the 2 Bricks review of a Lego Dev Slice, and he was talking about the bar and hole tolerances that have been decreasing in Lego's quality, and yes, there are problems in Lego's quality, and how this is actually often the biggest problem with other brands, and sort of the tolerances and friction being very, very very specific, and something that Lego's usually quite good at. And yeah, honestly, that tracks. This is very, very true here. All of the bars were stiff, and pin connections were okay, but bar and hole hole connections were really stiff and felt really awful to put together, and that was very much a problem for me. There was actually one situation, ironically, where this did improve the model, and that's the sausages, which attach the Silent Princess leaves, actually do have increased friction as well, and thus they stay really still, and they haven't fallen off once. So, sorry to you, official LEGO Silent Princess supporters, they got us beat on this one account only. Now, the set also uses some flexible-ish features like the flower stems, and they are rigid instead here, they're not flexible. And I actually started off thinking I was going to really like this, but actually to no one's surprise, LEGO knew exactly what they were doing by making these flexible, because, well, these rigid ones are, well, rigid, and the flowers keep falling off. They have sort of no flex and no strength for something that is having micro tolerances and so on. It's actually really irritating for these to be falling off, especially on the electric Safina. That was not an enjoying experience for them to all keep falling off there. So yeah, I was a little bit surprised by that one, and it did not work out as well as I hoped. But actually I had no missing parts. I had a few extras, but I don't imagine this is a consistency thing, just like the ones I had a lot of, which Mills for like they couldn't be bothered to actually count how many I needed, which worries me that other copies might not get enough. I imagine that just like LEGO, sometimes you won't get the right pounds, sometimes you'll get extras, or sometimes you'll be missing a few, and I really can't judge that, because I don't blame them when it happens in the big company either. So taking a closer look at the build, you can see that these guys are actually remarkably similar. Obviously, we've talked about the colour swaps on the Blue Nightshade before, but all of the design is here. Shout out to my original instructions, but me rereading them here, reminding me how to place these leaves correctly so that my Blue Nightshade build actually looks slightly better. So that's cool. Thank you, Off-Brand Build, for forcing me to use my instructions again. But yeah, no, they've still got the curve here, they've still got the variable lengths of the other things, and you can still attach them to pots. As I mentioned, the colours in general outside of the ones are just slightly off, like the normal green feels off. This is excluding, of course, the lime green substitution and everything else. They have all the Technic elements in the right colour, so the angles are all good here, and yeah, the clutch is sort of fine on this one. Different story on the Safina. Obviously, we've talked about the sort of wobbly bits around the top here, but I really still like how these bristles come together. But again, that's my design, so I'm complimenting myself really. And then they just have a couple of sort of spiky leaves. Again, I'm kind of surprised they recolored this part for this. It's a bit random. And then we also have the Hyrule Herb, which is, again, a really cool recreation. Because these flowers weren't separated out into different builds like I would obviously expect them to be in a LEGO set. Again, I'm not really going to make this as a comparison point, because usually if you buy parts off Bricklink, they're not going to be sorted as well. But I will say that a downfall of my design specifically is that I'm using a couple of different 1x1 rounded studs. There's the one with the flower ones, there's the solid ones, and then there's the one with the holes in it. They shouldn't all be in here, they should just all be the whole ones, because those are the ones that actually have a specialist purpose. I mean, everything else should be changed out, unless it's, of course, a flower piece. So that's a sort of alteration I think I'm going to make in the future to make things easier for me. And then, of course, there's the Silent Princess, which actually is my favourite of the 4 knockoff ones, purely because it actually fixes my problems with the real Silent Princess, and that is just because I don't think the original is stable. But yeah, you've got the 5 leaves here, and the sort of the petals and sepals underneath, the 5 petals, and then the flower in the centre as well. So again, this one's really nice, but again, I'm complimenting my original design and just saying that this feels slightly inferior. They all feel slightly inferior, and I've shown these to multiple people, and they have all said that they can tell exactly which ones are fake. So even if you can't, I think of it like pixels. I can't tell what a frame rate is. I don't know what a bad frame rate looks like, or a bad graphics card, and maybe you guys can't tell the difference between the fake LEGO, but boy, oh, I can tell. Yeah, this is a fun one. I'm glad I did this, but hopefully you guys feel like you've gotten something out of it. So, you guys convinced companies stealing mocks without permission is bad, maybe? Free or paid, it's just awful. And yet, with all that, I don't have a solution. They don't present the correct information. They don't do any research or design work on the models. They haven't built any of them, given the fact we looked at Koga's dimensions and they were wrong, and we're just using my renders and instructions. And honestly, I don't even think they care to. I don't think they care if they give you a correct product. And if this is the reality, then what can I say other than consider your morals? Buy other brands. I don't care. Laugh at me for caring so much. Honestly, I think I've got thick enough skin. I don't want any money from you. Shockingly, I don't expect to change things with this video, but this is my message to you. If you support artists, LEGO mocks, creativity, or just a general sense of fairness, try and get your mocks from the source. Consider where they're coming from. Consider supporting the original designers. Big mocks, small mocks, free mocks, paid mocks. Just do your research and think about what you want to support. I don't expect change from this, and I don't expect to start anything. However, with a small platform and as someone that has loved this hobby through creating models and has spent a long time producing instructions for you, I knew this would happen one day, and I knew that I'd have to use this video to explain to you why I don't approve and why I don't consider it. So I hope you guys can respect that, and I hope you guys see where, as a creator, I'd be coming from. And I hope that maybe this video has inspired you to think about it in a different way. But that's all from me. Have a wonderful rest of your day. Bye-bye.